So I think doing a mid-year reset is just like taking inventory or taking stock of your life and making a few tweaks, improvements and adjustments if needed. Hello and welcome back to Save Ourselves. Or if you're new here, then hi, I am Aparna. And in today's video, we will be talking about why you should do a slow and steady mid-year reset this year. So it is July and we're at the mid-year mark where everybody's trying to see how the first half of the year is gone and how they want to spend the second half of the year. And when you sit down to do some sort of reflection and planning, that's what we typically call a mid-year reset. And I am totally into doing resets and reflections at these intervals of time, whether it's quarterly, monthly, or at this mid-year point, because I feel that it gives you good insights into how you have been spending your time and how you can make some adjustments to improve it. And this year, unlike the other years, I don't want to take like a very frantic approach and feel the need to figure out my entire life in one sitting in a day. I want to be more strategic this time, and that's why I'm doing like a slower and steadier reset this year. And in case you're interested, I'm going to be talking about how you can do that in this video. So without further ado, let's get started. So I think doing a mid-year reset is just like taking inventory or taking stock of your life and making a few tweaks, improvements and adjustments if needed, and just put yourself back on the track if you feel like you've been off the track for a little bit. After you've spent 6 months of the year, things can seem to feel, like you're not really headed in the direction of the goals that you set at the beginning. Are your resolutions still on track? Are your circumstances the same? Are there new goals in the picture? Or is there anything completely different that you have not just thought about and that you would like to include in your life now? So this mid-year point is a great way to just sort of reflect on all of this and just bring those additions and even subtractions if needed into your life and get sort of a push to begin the second half of the year. And why I would recommend a slow and steady approach is that you actually take the time to reflect on how you've spent the last 6 months. You analyze of like what things are going right and what's something that can be improved, and you actually take the time to strategize or plan out those changes and how you can move forward in a slow and sustainable manner when you don't feel like it's too much to take on, because figuring out our lives as adults is hard enough already, and when we add all of these self-improvement bits on top of it, it can often feel overwhelming. So my intent is to not make it feel overwhelming and make it feel very digestible and take it absolutely step by step at a pace that is suitable for us. So the slow and steadiness of it can be as stretched out as you want. You can take a couple of days, a week, or even like a month to figure out how you want to go about the second half of the year. Now, there are 6 things that you can, there are 6 aspects that you can consider for this mid-year reset that will set you up in a better direction for the second half of the year. So let's get right into them one by one. So the first aspect is your environment. Now, even though you might be maintaining the space that you live or work in on a consistent basis, a mid-year point is a great way to just check in with your environment and see if it needs any sort of changes or upgrades. You can maybe rearrange your furniture to give your space a new, fresher look, or just even add or subtract some of the objects in your space to make it seem like it's to get yourself a little bit motivated for the second half of the year and just get this refresh and break the monotony if that has been the case for your space. And maybe you can do like a deeper clean of your space, change out the linens, your pillow covers, add some objects that are personal to you, something like candles or posters or even plants, and make the space a bit more homey, a bit more personalized to you. The second and a rather important aspect is digital organization. I, for one, am always running out of storage, and I'm just very tired of getting all of these notifications that my backups will stop soon if I don't make space in my digital cloud system. So I'm always sort of, trying to delete a few files here and there to make space temporarily. But a mid-year reset is a great way to go through all of your digital files and make sure that they are backed up, that they're super organized and you can find them very easily, and just update anything that needs to be updated and clean out the unnecessary stuff. Like our physical space, our digital space also needs a lot of attention, even more so these days, since everything is on the cloud or on a drive, or even just if it's on a proper hard disk that's backed up. Make sure that all of your files are where they need to be and just sort everything out digitally. I swear it will be a lot of help in the longer run, and it will make your life much easier when you're easily able to locate the files that you need. The third aspect is to look at your habits and give them a little dusting if needed. So for example, there will be a few habits in your life already that you do on like a consistent or a semi-consistent basis. For example, for me, those habits are reading and journaling. And even though I make sure that they are maybe, scheduled in my calendar, or I am tracking them day to day, after a few months they can sort of go off track or maybe be a little more inconsistent than I would like. A mid-year reset is a great way to just take stock of how consistent I've been with those habits and see if there are any new systems that I can put into place to just bring them back into my life with a fresher spirit, or do any sort of tweaks if needed. For example, in certain phases of life, I may realize that I don't really need to journal on a daily basis. In that case, I can set up a system where I just journal on alternate days or over the weekends or something like that. But this is something I'll realize only when I take stock at a mid-year point and look back on the months that have passed. So likewise, you can look at the habits that you love to do or love to incorporate in your life, and they have been a part of your life, and just dust them off and set up newer systems if needed. You can also look at the habits that you have not been so consistent with and that you would like to add to your life, and try to make space in your schedule to add those. Number 4 is to restart projects and resolutions. And no, it's not too late to start off with your resolutions or the projects that you've been thinking about that you might have, set timelines or strategies for back in January. It's completely alright if you got a little derailed, or if you just didn't have the time or the energy to make these projects and resolutions your priority in the first half of the year. You can definitely take stock of your life and try to add them in the second half of the year and see how you can make it a priority moving forward. For instance, Save Ourselves is such a project for me. Back in January, I did set up my 2024 content strategy up in Notion, and I had like newer goals and newer objectives that I really wanted to achieve for Save Ourselves in terms of its YouTube and newsletter and podcast and everything that I've set up for it. But I wasn't really able to be as consistent as I would have liked. But it's not too late and I can always restart. So this is my effort of restarting that resolution and just making a habit of being consistent with it. And it's okay if there are a little bits of ups and downs with these projects, as long as you are aware of what you have not prioritized before and what you would like to. You're good to go, and you can start whenever you feel like. It's never too late to do that. Number 5 is looking back and looking forward. Now, this is my favorite part of doing any kind of reset. So looking back essentially is like reflecting on the months that have passed and just seeing like how you've spent your time, how have the past few months been for you, in terms of your personal life, your career, your emotions, your mood, and all of these aspects that are important to you. And for that, you can go through your journal entry, your camera roll, your texts with your friends or things like that, and just go through any sort of documentation that you might have for your life and try to gauge and take inventory of how the past few months have been for you. After that is done, you can then look forward. While looking forward, you can ask yourself questions like, do I want to spend the next few months the way I have spent the past few months? What is something that I would like to change about that? What is something I would not like to change and carry forward in the next few months? And just questions that will give you the answers to what essentially is that you want to carry forward what is something you would like to add and what is something that you would like to subtract. And based on these things, you already get a sense of some of the goals and priorities that you want to have for the second half of the year. So looking back and looking forward is something that you can do for your mid-year reset. And the way you can do it is just grab a journal or any sort of digital or physical format you would like to jot down your points on, and just make a few notes of how you're feeling about looking back and looking forward, and what are the steps that you would like to take moving into the future. And last but not the least, after we've done all of this and after we've looked back and looked forward, it's time to come back to the present. Now, one of the other reasons that I like doing these resets is because they are very grounding and they bring you back to reality. So being present is something that I feel like we have to be pretty mindful about these days, because we tend to get lost in our own lives. We're so busy with work or keeping up with different aspects of our lives that sometimes we forget to be present and live in the moment, and we just get carried forward thinking about the future unnecessarily, or just thinking about the past and sort of ruminating on it over and over again, when none of these things actually do us any good. And during a mid-year reset, what we do is that we intentionally look at the past and the future, and it's not just daydreaming or rumination, which is very unintentional in nature. So after this intentional reflection and future planning, we can come back to the present and see what can be done in the present moment. What does the present moment feel like? How does your life feel like right now? What are the good and bad things about your current circumstances? And what is this phase in your life like? How are you dealing with the things that are happening in your life? And maybe just give this season or this chapter a name, or just be very mindful of the chapter that you're currently in and bring all of your senses back into the present. And that's it. That's more or less my method of doing a mid-year reset. Of course, you can go into as much detail or make it as broad as possible. And what I like to do is I like to document this reset on either Notion or my bullet journal, or I'll simply write down about it in my journal and just have sort of a documentation of how and what I'm doing in my mid-year reset. So if you like, you can do the same or adopt any different method that's more suitable to you. And I hope that you found some of these insights to be helpful. And I hope that you have fun doing your slow and steady mid-year reset. Let me know in the comments your approaches and your ways to tackling resets like this. And if there's anything I can take away from you that I have not maybe included in this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.